pleased to announce our chief guest for the evening, Mr. Venu Rajamoni, a career diplomat with more than 3 decades of experience, scholar of international relations, and former journalist. Mr. Rajamoni has held several key positions in India and abroad. He held the post of press secretary to the President of India during the tenure of President Pranab Mukherjee. He was the ambassador of India to the Netherlands, and he was also the permanent representative of India to the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons in The Hague, as well as responsible for India's relations with the International Court of Justice and the Permanent Court of Arbitration. On September 17, 2021, he assumed the post of Officer on Special Duty External Cooperation with the rank of Chief Secretary in the State Government of Kerala. He also serves as a concurrent faculty of diplomatic practice at the Jindal Global Law School at O.P. Jindal Global University in Haryana. He could not be with us in person today, but we are fortunate that he has sent us a special message via video. If you could please direct your attention to the screen for the keynote address by our honorable chief guest, His Excellency Mr. Venu Rajamoni.
Namaste. Good afternoon, friends, graduates of the year 2022 from Global Public School, students of the school who are present and who are watching on YouTube, the teachers, the faculty of the school, the leadership of the school, the principal, the chairman of the Board of Trustees, Mr. Viju Jacob, who is a good friend, advisor to the chairman, Mrs. Lakshmi Ramachandran, parents, a very important component of any school community, and all others who are present, who are watching. Good afternoon to each and every one of you. It is truly a great privilege and honor for me to join you on this graduation day. I'm sad that I'm unable to be there in person, but I do hope that I shall have an early opportunity to visit the school and meet as many of you as possible and to interact with you directly. The Global Public School is a school which has made a very good reputation for itself from the early days of its existence. It is not only regarded as one of the best schools in Kochi, but also one of the best schools of Kerala, as well as perhaps India. So I congratulate each one of you who are part of the school community, along with the special people of today, the graduates, on your very important achievements. And I wish the school, I wish the school community, and I wish all the graduates the very best in the coming days. This last 2 years has been a challenging time for the whole world. There is nobody whose life has not been disrupted as a result of the pandemic. And the students, the graduates of this batch who have had online education for the last 2 years have been at the front lines of it. They have had to bear the brunt of it, along with teachers who also had to take a much bigger load, and along with managing their families, along with staying at home and looking after their own children, they've had to teach online. I am myself a professor at the O.P. Jindal Global University in Sonipat near Delhi now, and I know how difficult it is to teach online, to communicate and to maintain a lively connect with your students. So what you have achieved is tremendous. I do not know how many of you have seen a wonderful ad which runs on television these days, where there is a young student making a graduation speech and saying, yes, we are the batch which graduated online, or which studied online and graduated during COVID times. And yes, our lives might be very different from previous batches or from future batches. But that difference is also very special because parents have supported you despite their own difficulties, despite perhaps losing jobs, having a reduced income. They have continued to pay your fees and continued to support you. Many of your family members might have been unwell because of COVID, but still throughout those difficult times, they have stood in support of the students. And the teachers, similarly, despite many personal difficulties, have stood solid by the students, and the students have adapted to technology, have adapted to online education, like fish takes to water, and have come out successful and are now looking at the future with optimism and confidence. So truly what has been achieved over the last 2 years, this very special batch of 2022 has much that it can claim to its credit. It is not just having passed, having graduated and having done well in the exams, but also the fact that you dealt with the adversity of COVID with great grit, with determination, and you have successfully overcome it. Let me mention to all of you students that you have heard of the saying that every challenge is also an opportunity. So this adversity must be converted by each and every one of you into an opportunity. Many of you have already done it well, and what you must do in the coming days is to retain these online skills, is to hone them, to develop them, and to improve them. In the coming days, in the world of 21st century, in where we are, the whole world is going to be a knowledge society. Knowledge is king, and to acquire that knowledge, to assimilate that knowledge, to disseminate that knowledge, technology is extremely important. The more you develop skills in terms of all kinds of online activities, including social media, the more equipped you will be as you go forth into the future to face the world and to meet the challenges of the future, to come out successful again and again and again, as you have done in your exams this time. So my first message to you, my first advice to you is, you have had this wonderful opportunity where you have all been forced to use this technological medium of online education to graduate, to study. Please continue to build on it. Use it as a foundation. Develop it as much as possible so that you go forth into the world armed and fully equipped to sort of address every challenge that comes to you, and to perform each task in a far better manner than you would have ever done before, or than in any of your peers who have not mastered technology may be able to do it. Secondly, friends, I think I would like to tell all of you that you must look at the world around you, you must look at society around you, you must look at the community around you. What is this pandemic? A tiny, invisible virus brought the entire world, mighty countries, rich and powerful people, societies to their knees. An invisible enemy whom we have not been able to see has caused such upheaval in a society, has caused such damage and suffering to the world, to people across the world, in terms not just of their health, but also their economy. So we must be able to prevent the pandemics of the future. We must be able to invest more and more in health and education. We must be able to raise not just the quality of life of each and every citizen across the world, but we must be able to ensure that their immunity, their strength, their ability to resist diseases, which very easily can spread across the world, are at its best and are at its maximum. Have we reached that stage? Sadly not. We still have a long way to go to ensure the basic minimum of health security, of food security and economic security for a large majority of the population of the world. Even in COVID times, in the midst of great economic distress, what we saw was a phenomenon of the rich getting richer and the poor being marginalized more and more. So this situation has to change. This situation must change. And not only this, look at what is happening in Europe right now. You must have all read about the invasion of Ukraine by Russia, a war having broken out, a war of a kind that Europe has not seen since the Second World War, and a war which is bringing enormous destruction and havoc to the people of Ukraine, to the cities of Ukraine. Now, why do wars still happen? The United Nations was created after the Second World War on the lofty principle of trying to move the world towards an elimination of war. Yes, the UN has been successful in preventing a world war, but there are many, many wars which have happened, and the UN has been helpless in trying to stop it. And even now, as this war happens, we see much of the world just as bystanders, the people of Ukraine being left to defend themselves on their own, essentially with a little outside support, but no direct participation by any other country, because there is a genuine fear that more countries jump into the fray. It could escalate into a third world war or another war where nuclear weapons, God forbid, are used. So the world is going through great turmoil at this point of time. People say that this is a time when liberalism is on the decline across the world. Democracy is on the decline. Human rights and fundamental freedoms, all of which were upheld as the most important of rights post Second World War, after the horrors of Nazi and fascist rule, after the genocide of the Jews, which was perpetrated by Hitler and his cronies. We had thought that the world had changed, the world had transformed. And when the Soviet Union collapsed, there was great celebration, saying that now the bulk of the countries of the world are on the path of democracy. But instead, what we see is authoritarian rulers coming up everywhere, polarization being deliberately engineered within societies in an effort to divide man and man, woman and woman, to make people fight with each other, engage in contestations and competitions on the basis of race, on the basis of religion, on the basis of language, on the basis of culture. The number of wars between countries may have reduced post Second World War, but there is huge conflict within societies, and there is discrimination which still persists. There is exploitation of the poor which persists. There is exploitation of women which persists. We still are far from attaining a gender balance and full women's empowerment in all societies of the world, not just in India. But so there are huge challenges that await all of you as young people as you go forth into the world. We must end war, we must eliminate poverty, we must bring health and education to all, we must truly establish equality amongst people. There must be not just equality, there must be full support for the women in our society to enable them to blossom and contribute their fullest in all aspects of life. And together, we must move towards a brave new world where the differences between us cease to matter, and we see each one of us as children of the same God, as people who have been created by the same Almighty, in His spirit, in His flesh and blood, in like the Paramatma and the Atma, as we would say in Indian philosophy, that we are all united, we are all one. And together we must face the challenges that confront us. Together we must overcome them. Together we must build a world where there is prosperity, there is peace, there is harmony. This is the huge challenge that awaits all of you as young people. The course of history cannot be determined. We are at a particular point of time right now. The elder generation has tried its best, has had some success, has had major failures, but either way, the way ahead is going to be not smooth sailing, but a time when each of you have to bring the best of your abilities into creating this brave new world, into creating a world where your dreams truly come true. So I urge each one of you, as you graduate, as you see the tremendous destruction that is happening in Europe through a war, through your television channels, as you read about students like you who went to Ukraine to study medicine and other subjects and were trapped in bunkers for days and days in the midst of shelling and in the midst of bombing, without food, without water, without having the ability to communicate, because data and internet connectivity is a vital necessity in today's world. So how they suffered and how we have just about managed to bring them back, and how one poor Indian student from Karnataka was killed when he went out of his bunker to find food for himself. So it was an absolute tragedy, and this tragedy teaches us of the complexities of the world, of the difficulties that we still need to overcome, of the fact that a war like this can still break out in this day and age in 2022, and that we should all join hands together to try and see what is it that we can do to prevent these things from happening, to manage them better, to reduce the suffering of people, and to constantly promote unity of people across countries, across societies, across religions, across caste, across economic divides. How we can truly we must begin with our own little communities. The school itself is a community, with your neighbors, with your friends, with your families. But unity must be the mantra. Peace must be our goal. Harmony must be our conviction. And the common prosperity of everyone should be the goal towards which we work. So to achieve this as students, I would say that each and every one of you should take a lively interest in public affairs, should travel as much as you can, should meet as many interesting people as you can, and you should continue to use every means possible to both acquire knowledge and acquire a sensitiveness to what is happening around you. Ultimately, all of you might do well in exams, might win gold medals, you may do well in the field of sports, you may take part in a large number of extracurricular activities which all contribute to your personality. But please remember at all times, and this is a message to the teachers too, that the ultimate purpose of education is molding of character, is building good human beings who are compassionate, who are caring, who are sensitive, and who not only uphold ideals, but are determined to fight for them and to to disseminate them and to spread those ideals far and wide within society. So once I conclude, congratulating the graduates and wishing them the very best for their future, for their studies, for their career, for urging them to build a brave new world in the coming days, to sail forth in confidence. As a person who has lived in many countries, met young people like you across the world, let me tell you, you are inferior to none. You are as good, if not better, than the best of your age that you can find anywhere in the world. So sail forth with confidence, but also sail forth with determination that you will change the world, that you will make a difference to the poorest of the poor, that you will contribute to creating a sustainable society, an environmentally friendly society, to discovering new development paradigms, and you will always be a voice for peace, a voice for unity, a voice for harmony, and a voice for pluralism. Thank you very much. Good day. Bye-bye. Namaste.